Parth, over to you. Any questions that you have during the course of the session, please make sure that you post it on chat. We have other colleagues from UiPath as well who will be helping you out with the answers to those questions. And this app session is actually being organized as a part of a series. So there will be sessions happening every Wednesday at the same time. So we will be sharing the link of the next session in the chat. So it would be good if you can register here itself. And any queries, questions that you have, feel free to reach out to me, Parth, or just post it on the chat over here. That's it from my side. Parth, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Rohit. Okay. So, hey guys, thank you so much for joining. And yeah, so like Rohit mentioned, this complete sessions that we are planning of UiPath apps. Now, recently in the UiPath HyperAct as well, we had a category that was UiPath apps. I also participated in that, and I saw that in community, many people had many questions that how to perform these functionalities. Is this possible in UiPath apps or not? So we thought, why not create a series of sessions that will include everything, not only technically developing the app, but also understanding the integrations possible, the new features that have came in, right? Also understanding the enterprise use cases. The most thing that we have a problem with when participating in a hackathon or when presenting to a customer or a client is that what type of use cases are possible using UiPath apps. So we have that sessions as well lined up in the further part of the series. Today, we are going to mainly focus on the few recent updates of UiPath apps. The app's UI has also changed on the cloud website. And then there are some new controls added, some validation controls added. There are new different kind of integrations possible. So what are that? And how can you design an app, structure an app in a better way when you have a particular use case to implement? So our session is going to be around that particular topic. And I definitely don't want this conversation or this session to be like one way where I'll be just talking and presenting. So just feel free to unmute yourself or raise your hand, put the question in the chat. I might answer over there as well. If not, I'll just take the question in the end, and whatever it is, we'll have a good engaging session. So yeah, let's get started. And yeah, if you feel I'm going fast in any of the topic or while explaining something, just unmute yourself and or just put it in the chat. I'll monitor the chat as well. Okay. Yeah. So please just confirm when my screen is visible so we can get
Yes, it is.
started.
It is visible. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So before we move ahead to understanding the updates and the other things in UiPath apps, deep diving into that, this is what we are going to implement by the end of this session. So just to keep you amazed and interested in the session, this is what we are going to implement. So this is a single page app that is called as Creato. Creato is basically an use case that allows you to create applications or create your accounts in minutes, your verified accounts. Now, there is no background process running right now behind it, but this is just a concept that I'm trying to show over here, that this is the kind of UI you can build. These are the kind of form fields or file fields that you can give, and what are things are possible. So that is what we are going to see by the end of the sessions. Now in this, I have integrated data services. I have integrated in-app validation, form validation is there. Then there are multiple things. So I'll just give a demo of what all features are there in this particular one single page. And then we will move on to how they are technically implemented and what are the new features. So first I'm going to put my name. Okay, so in email, basically we have email validation. Now this is one of the recent updates in UiPath apps. Initially, it was not like that. Initially, you maybe have to run a UiPath process or check if contains at the rate and all that. But now it can be simply done. So if you see email, it shows invalid email. So now I'm going to type my email. Okay, then phone number. Okay, so if I type ABC, it's not going to accept that. So I'm going to put. So if you see age as well, there is a slight highlight message that we are showing. Age should be greater than 18. So I'm just going to put as 24 over here. And if you see, the message came when the age was under 18. The message went away after the age is what we have implemented something else. Then you have to select a file and upload, right? So I'm just going to select this and okay. So here one more functionality which we have implemented is that if you are using an email account where that account is already used to create an account. So we have that kind of validation as well. So now I'm just going to click on submit and we'll see it. Now this validation happens through data service. Now since this particular email ID, I'm already using it, we should see a pop-up that shows that account creation failed. It basically already exists. So I'll show you the data over here. Okay. So if you see a@b.com is already used and we should see that pop up over here. So by that time, I'll go into editing. It should not take this much time, but yeah, let's rerun it. Okay, so this is the app designer. So I'm directly moving on to this with a basic assumption that you guys know what UiPath Apps is and how you can create a basic app. So we are directly going to deep dive into this. So let me click on preview over here. Loading the app. Let me fill in the details. Okay. So account creation failed, an account has already been created with this email ID. Please use another email ID. So all this type of validation, referencing your data service that an account is already created and not you allowing the user to use that same email ID. This all kind of features can be implemented within UiPath apps. So now let's get on to how I have built this app and how does the ideation go behind building this app. Okay. So this is main page. Okay. So first what I have designed is I have designed a page that has header. Now header is something that I'm going to use at multiple pages. I can use it at multiple places. So what I did is I created one single page that has my header and I'll be reusing that at multiple places. Okay. So now if you see over here, I have used a container when you go to add control. So first this add control and all the features were on the complete right hand side. Now the UI has been modified and it is over here. So what I did is I created a page that I will reuse as a header again and again. So in containers, so what I would prefer is you always structure your elements within containers. If you see over here, my each single element is within a specific container over here as well. That is very important while you are structuring your app and while you are creating the elements that can be well placed and does not changes with the UI changing, right? So now if I go over here, this is my main header. I'll go to style where I'm defining the height and width. Just give me a second. Okay. This is auto and auto. Now I know that my logo or my company name is going to take a very little space. So what I have done over here is I've given this width as 15% only. Why would you keep it on auto when you have an option to give it a specific value, right? So what I will suggest is give specific value to your containers that you want to be laid out in your app that much only, right? So don't give it just 100% or irrespective of anything. Think it and give a particular value. Similarly goes over here. What I did is here I give 55%. I don't want it to get moved to the complete right hand side, or I don't want to use that space basically. So if you see, I gave it 55% and I made this right aligned because I wanted to move it to that side. So I kept it right aligned and then it is available over here. Now, so this is how you need to focus on reusability in UiPath apps as well. It's not like that reusability is only possible in your studio processes, but it is also possible in UiPath apps. So when you are building an app or when you are starting to build an app, focus on this thing. focus on how you can create reusable pages. You can avoid doing repetitive things again and again. Coming to the main page now. Okay. Before I go to the main page, any questions in this part of creating a reusable page or how to create a header page? Any questions in this part? If not, then we can move ahead.
Parth, one question. So when you
Yes.
mention about the size in percentage, say it's 15%. So it's 15% of the parent container or 15% of the whole page or the screen size resolution.
Of the parent container.
Okay. And when we talk about the parent container, like if monitor is changes, our screen resolution is changing, how that percentage is impacting our containers.
So what I did, parent container, I keep it complete, like from start till the end. So whatever your display page will be or your resolution will be, it will adapt to that because it will be complete 100% and my sub
Okay.
containers will take 15% of it. So
Okay.
it's obviously using a main container within that using the sub containers. We could have used directly the sub containers as well, but then again, that will create the problem. So
Understood.
always put them within a main container and then use it. So if I, okay, I'll go forward and I'll explain that for the part as well. So now if you see, I have already created a page properly structuring them within the containers, but still when I'm using a page container to refer that page, I'm again doing that within a container. I want to structure my app correctly. Here, if you see, this is one container within this. This is the page container. If you see, so here I've given the reference of my header page. Basically, container is used to structure your elements. Now coming to the further part. Okay. Now this again, this is all about designing. If you are good at HTML or CSS, then you will be the best person who can design the best apps or know what height and width to select, right? So you can definitely be a master of that. So I will say if you want to learn UiPath apps, learn the basic concepts of HTML and CSS on some random website or do a small Udemy course, and then I think you can design the best apps. Even I have not mastered that yet myself, but I'm getting good at it. I'm learning HTML, CSS concept, which can help me understand how to build a UiPath app and structure it. Okay. So now what I did over here is I took this one container. Here is the another one, and here is the third one. So now you can place your elements vertically and horizontally both in your UiPath app. So now if you see over here in the properties section, I have placed them horizontally. I have not placed them vertically because I want like 1, 2, and 3. So that is the reason you place them horizontally. Here also I have given them percentage. If I go in size, this is taking 40%. This is taking, this I have kept it as auto because I have already placed the other two. So this is going to only take the space that is left. And here it is 40. So 40, 40 is 80 and the remaining place is taken by this. Okay, so I see one question in the chat, how to provide validation. So when we come to the form designing part, I'll cover that, Bala Nirmal. Yeah. Now coming to the form designing part, these are simple headers that I've used. Now, one of the main updates that has came in that I think is very helpful to any person who has worked on app when it was announced or when it was released for the first public community preview. Now we have three options over here. If I drag a text box, there are three types of input type. One is text, number, and the third one is email. So this is one of the recent updates that I wanted to cover in this session. That is the reason I have a field which takes text value, that is name. So text can take anything. Text can be a number, or it can be a string value as well. So text is something that can have all the values. Then it is number. So what we are using for phone number is we are using the input type number, and for email we are using email. So these are the three types of validation possible in your text boxes, and I think we normally deal with only these three types of values. It's very rare we have something else, right? So it's name that where we need text, then it is email, and then it is the number that we are using. So if you see, okay, and also there is a link for the to understand the validation in detail in the chat as well. Yeah, so I hope Bala Nirmal, your question is clear that how we do the validation. So you just select the right text box that is needed for your use case, and I think then you don't have to do anything about it. Okay. Now, if you see this particular message, age should be greater than 18 was only being displayed, even though I have it hard coded in the app. It is not getting assigned dynamically, it is hard coded in the app. Then how I am showing it only when my age is greater than 18 or when my age is lesser than 18? So what I have done is, here I have created a variable that sets the hidden property of this particular message. So what you can do is you can hide and unhide the message. So there is a, what we call, there is a property that you can set dynamically, that you, whether you want to show this label message or you don't want to show this label message. So what I have done is, on page load, I'm setting that show edge error true. That means I'm setting its hidden property to true. That means I don't want to show that particular message. So this is the first thing that I'm doing to show and hide the messages dynamically. Then on my submit button, if I go over here, okay, not on the submit button, but right itself when the value is changing. So if I go on edit row, so if you see, if the value changes in the text box, here I'm using a variable that is age. So what you can do is just simply do this. So if I go to main page and if I go to age, so the naming convention is very important. If you see over here, my every container, my every text box, file picker value, everything, it is very perfectly named. This creator, creato, the name that I've given, everything. The naming convention is very important to refer them throughout the app. So what I'm doing over here is, if age is less than 18, show age error, make it false. That means unhide the value, show the value on the screen. And if it is greater than 18, when the user is putting the value, I'm going to hide it again. Right. So this is something that you can do to dynamically hide and unhide the message using the property that we have, that is the hidden property of that particular text message box, and you can set its Boolean value. So this is the other kind of validation that we are doing, and the text box validation that we're doing. Okay, I'll take a quick pause if anyone has any questions over here. I see one in the chat. Is there any specific length to how many characters can be entered as an input in normal text input? So if I go over here, minimum length and maximum length, these are the properties that have been added. So you can utilize this, that if you want only like name up to maybe 10 characters, right? So you can just give that value over here and you can make that possible. Yeah. Okay. Taking another quick pause. If anyone has any other questions, have to go to page load event, where to find it. So there's a question from Tarun that have to go to page load event. So what you can do is just select main page over here, go to events. So whatever your main page is, not any container, not any element, go directly to the main page. So when you go to the main page, you will find the load event over here, and then you can do whatever settings you want to do on the page load event. Okay. Yeah. Any other questions? Or else I'll go to the other part, that what are the other updates that I have integrated.
Parth, can you explain this loaded event once more? Like, what do we mean by page being loaded? Is it
Okay.
like
Okay.
because
So yeah, when you run your app, basically your app is loading, right? So on that instance, right when my app is loading, do I want to hide some values? Do I want to show some values? Or do I want to fetch the data from data service and show right over there? So that kind of things that you want to display on the first instance or hide on the first instance, you configure the things over here in the on load event, that is loading event. So right now I have that message. I want to first of all hide it. Then when the value is changing, I'm dynamically going to make it true or false. But initially I don't want to show that message. So I'm just setting a value of my variable that hide this message. So on my page load, it will not be visible. Only when the value is changing, it will hide or unhide.
got it?
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Let me see anything in chat. Nothing. Yeah. Now let's go ahead to the other part. Okay. Then we have an option to upload the files as well. Right now, as far as I remember, the file types that are supported are, I think file we can upload any. Okay, that is for document viewer. Sorry, I got confused. But file, yeah, file you can upload any. What you can do when the file is uploaded over here is you can upload that same file to storage bucket. If you want to use it in your UiPath process, basically how you connect this with your UiPath processes, you will simply upload a file over here. Once the file is added or removed, if it is added, you upload it to the storage bucket. And from storage bucket, your process will take that. You can pass the file name as an argument to your UiPath process. So that is how that is possible. And that brings us to our another integration, that is storage buckets. Right now, it is not integrated, but we can do that. So I'm just going to show a small demo of it. That how you can do that. We'll come to the later part of that, because right now I'm uploading this file in data service as well. What is data service, how we are configuring it, we'll come to that, but we can do that as well. Oh, yeah. Now, so this is basically a file upload option available where you can add or remove the files. The major use case is uploading it to the storage buckets. Now coming to our submit button, and all the validations or the spinner that you see, the loader that you see, the message that you saw, account created, every configuration is done over here. Till now we saw how to design a UI, how to structure your web page, or how to structure your app page using different text boxes, validating them, showing or hiding the values dynamically. And now we are going to come to the submit button. Okay. So I think Bala Nirmal asked a question, how to navigate from one web page to another web page. Instead of web page, I would say how to navigate from one page to another in UiPath app. So Bala Nirmal, you have a simple property available over here, open page. You use this and drag the page that you want to open. If you want to show it as a pop-up, show it as bottom, prevent to close on click, whatever you want to do, open in page container, you can use the property open page, and I think then you should be good. Yeah. So I hope this answers your question, Bala Nirmal, and I think Dilip already answered the question in the chat as well. Okay. So now, just give me a second. Okay. Now coming to the submit button, the spinner that you saw, the warning message that I showed, how that thing is possible. Before that, we'll cover what is data service. So data service can basically, in simple terms, be understood as SQL for UiPath. Here you can create entities. If I relate to SQL, it means you can create tables, you can add data, you can relate data. There are multiple things that you can do. So I've created an entity that is creator. In that I have my fields name, email, the same that we have on the form, phone number, age, ID proof, and these are the default columns that are created: ID and updated by, created by, create time, update time. Right, so that are by default created. Now coming back over here, you need to go to entity. You can select the entity and then you can just link it. So now what I'm doing, on click of submit button, if you see here, there are many functions possible. If then, open URL, close, show message, hide values, etc., multiple things, reset values, and there are definitely a lot of things. Okay. So what I'm doing is, as soon as the submit button is clicked, I want to show a spinner that you saw when I ran the app. We show a spinner that please wait while we create your account. After that, what I'm doing is, here there are some functions and features that you can use to simplify your apps processes. To learn more about it, I think you will definitely have to go to documentation of UiPath apps and learn about these functions, because this definitely cannot be explained in a single session. So what I'm doing is I'm using a lookup function. I'm looking up that the user email, the email that the user has entered, does it already exist in my data service? That means if it is already present or not. So I'm using a lookup function and then I'm taking its length. So basically, if it is already present, then its length will be greater than 0. That means I have to show an error message that this account already exists, this email ID already exists, and I cannot use it. So this is how here I'm using combination of two functions. First, I'm looking up into the data service. Data service is creato. Then I'm saying that creato.email. That means my that particular column, does it equal to the value that user has entered, that is email? And if yes, then take the email out of it. If it takes the email, its length will be greater than 0. And we will not be able to create that account. We will not allow basically user to create that account. Okay. So yeah, this is where I'm using my if condition. Then what I'm doing is the spinner will be still running. So I'm just stopping it. For that, you have to just uncheck this. If you see here, I have checked this particular checkbox. Here I have unchecked this particular checkbox. There is no message to be written. Just uncheck this and it will get disappeared. And then I'm showing a message, account creation failed, and account has been already created with this email ID. Please use another email ID. Then it is warning. Top, you can increase the second, let's make it 7. If you feel it is too short, or if you, whatever it is, you can use. And there are 4 types again: info, success, warning, and error. You can use for whatever you want. Now, if my length is not greater than 0, that means that email ID does not exist, right? So if it is not existing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a record in my that data service. So for that, I'm going to use the function called create or update entity record. Now, if you see, I'm using that, I'm specifying my entity, then it is age, email, file picker. File picker is basically the file that has been added in the upload file option. Then there is name, and then there is phone number. So I'm mapping all the data that is entered in the text fields over here. After that, when created or updated, so once it is successfully created, I'll stop the spinner. I'll say account created, congratulations, your account has been created successfully. Success, the message is there for 5 seconds. Let's make this as well 7 seconds. Does not make much of a difference, but yeah, let's do that. Okay, so now if you see, this is how I've completely configured my submit action. Now I think this has been a lot of information back to back. So if you have any questions, or if you want to see how this is configured, or are confused how you can do this particular thing, please feel free to ask. We'll take 1 or 2 questions and then I'll again move back to explaining.
Parth, one question, like in the if condition on the right hand side, you have written equals to double quote 0. How, what does it refer? Because we in the middle we already have an operator greater than, equals to, not equals to. But instead of using an equals to in the middle operator, you have specifically defined it like this.
Okay, so now if you observe, here also I've used equal to.
There, I know that is for the formulas that we are using through the
Right.
UiPath apps.
So here again, it is not necessary that you should use. There is no compulsion behind it that you should use. It's better, like I have this habit of every time using it, so I'm using it, but it's not a compulsion. You can specify 0 over there.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Also, I saw one question from Rahul in the chat. Hi Parth, is it possible to make 2 interactions between 2 applications? It means if we write something in a field and save, it should appear in another app. So yes, that is possible. If let's suppose you are writing some data over here, you are adding it into the data service and you are fetching the same data from data service in another app, then you can simply just have your 2 apps connected, which is passing the data between that. If you want to do some other operations, you can use queues as well. Queues, you can add the data to the queues as well. Right now, I don't have it over here, but from UiPath apps, you can directly add data to your UiPath queues as well. If you want your process to run some or do some processing and then pass in your another app. So there are different ways in how you can achieve that. So I hope your question is clear, Rahul.
So, hi Parth. So, as you're showing, once we are entering the data, and you are immediately displaying that it account has been created. But
Right.
is it possible that once the job is successful from the orchestrator side, then we show this message? Because it may be possible that it fails
Right.
on the system side, and it's
Okay.
not created actually.
Okay. So what you can do is, let's suppose this show or hide spinner starts, right? And then you are starting a process. Okay. So let's suppose over here, I have start process. So this process is starting, and till my process is not completed, my spinner is still there because I'm not disabling it. So right now I don't have any process. Let me just see if I have any random process that I can add. Okay. So just to explain what we are talking about, let me see what is happening. Okay. So startup process. If I drag this, if you see over here, when started, when state changes, when completed, or errors. So basically, when your process is running and you have, if you have started the spinner at the end, unless it is completed or it has an error, you can keep that spinner going in your app. So this is basically, once you click submit, the process starts running, it fails. Then you will have an error over here. You can show that error message that the process is failed. Please retry it, or whatever function that you want to do. Or if you want to reset the form fields, you can use that. So here you can directly configure what you want to do in case of a failure. So that is how it is possible over right here itself, Pradeep.
Okay, thanks, Parth.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So now, like I said, I talked about one function only, that is lookup, but I'll just quickly show that the number of functions that we have, right? So if I go over here, okay. So now if you see over here, the number of functions that we have are basically, we have all the functions that we need for a basic validation or a basic processing. And concat contains count, ends with if condition is blank. So there are different types of functions that you can use. I have worked on some complex functions as well, where I'm using filter on, upon that I'm using count, and after that I'm doing some validation, or I'm just showing the count of the data that I have, or basically just fetching the data of user and displaying it in a table. Like I want to filter all the data that has email Doshi 180 at the rate gmail.com. I want to filter all that data, display in my table. In table, after I'm displaying, user will select one field and wants to edit that. So that all kind of things also that you can do. That becomes a little complex. This is right now we are talking about the updates and the basic app that you can develop, right? Then you have month, date. This is normally that I think we always need in any process, that displaying the current time, date, or year, anything like that. Again, now it is also possible that you might have want to display something like welcome Parth on your app, or whoever the user is using, right? Whichever user is using the app, you just want to display his first name, last name, or want his email ID. Then you can use this three system variables that are created. That is basically, you can use the first name, last name, and the email. So whatever user account which is there, which has logged in into the Windows machine, and the email ID configured. Normally in office, we have our name, email, everything configured. When we go to CMD, we just do who am I, we get all the details. Similarly, here there are system variables already created that you can use. So as you see over here, we have first name, last name, and then we have the email as well. So you can use whatever you want. All right. Then definitely there are this many functions that we have. Okay. And yeah. Now coming to the other controls. Okay, let me remove this. Now we have a lot of icons as well. If you want to, this is for user experience, right? So if you see, there are, I think, more than 150 or 200 icons available. Whatever your context is, use icons to create engaging experience, right? So that is something that you can do in UiPath apps. And then there are few other features that right now are not integrated within the app but are very helpful. One is rich text editor, right? So I'm just going to this is going to definitely change how my app looks, but let me just, because I tried to integrate as much as I could, but after a point I could not. So yeah. So if you see, this is basically to create rich text within the app. If you want to give an user an option to create a text editor, let's basically suppose if you want to send an email, but in email we normally create tables or we make the text bold, and we do a lot of things when sending an email, right? When we want to send an informative email or send some statistics or something like that, we want to add an image and all that. Everything can be done using this control. It can be passed to a UiPath process and then you can send an email. So that is something that you can use while working with when you want to create rich text basically. So at that time you can use this. Then we can integrate our UiPath apps directly with integration service. Before some time, I'm not sure which release it was, but before sometimes you had to create a UiPath process and then you had to send or integrate it with other applications. But now if you see, these are the number of applications that you can directly integrate your UiPath apps with, right? So if you see, there are, I'm not sure if I can read all of them, but there are multiple applications and more coming in. You can create your custom connector as well. As far as I'm sure, add connection. There is an option over here, connection builder. So you can create your own connection as well. So that also integration is possible with UiPath apps. You can create your complete new connector. Then the other integrations possible. Definitely we saw process storage buckets is there to upload the file. Entity we saw with data service we have implemented. Queue you can add the data, but for queue the requirement is that you have to create a JSON schema as well. So when we create a queue item, there is a JSON schema that we need to upload. So in the app, we can directly map the variables that we want to add the entity into or add the data into. So yeah, I think we already at the start of the session saw what we are going to implement. And this is how I have created this Creato app that helps you create a verified account in one step. So yeah, I think now we can take other questions or any other issues that anyone is facing in UiPath apps. I think I have Akshat and Dilip as well with me from UiPath to help you answer your queries. And before we move that to Q&A and before we get into the discussions, this is the another session. I'll just put it in the chat section. And this session is going to be a little more technical deep dive. The functionality and that features that you saw right now will go more deep inside it. We might see some complex. Okay, I don't want to say what will be in the sessions. You just need to register for it and be there. This will be happening next Wednesday. And after this, there are more other 3 sessions lined up, which is every Wednesday at 5 p.m. So we'll try to continue this series. If after this 5 sessions as well, we have something more interesting to present, we might bring more sessions on UiPath apps as well. So now can we deploy UiPath apps to open internet? Like if I want to deploy this form on my company's website, is that possible? So I'll stop sharing my screen and I'll let Dilip or Akshat answer this question, that can we publish a UiPath app publicly?
So hey everyone, this is Dilip. Uh, this is in pipeline. You would be able to probably see this in further updates, right? So it is not now possible, but it would be in further updates that would be possible.
Right. Thank you, Dilip. So right now, what you can do is, if you have any other website or if you want to integrate them, you can use iframe control of UiPath apps, and you can display them in UiPath apps. Anything particular if you want to display, but not publish your UiPath app publicly.
Okay, thanks.
So instead of publicly, if I want to give access to say 500 people, some people I know, say my college friends, juniors, specific people I want to give access, is there any limit to that?
There should not be a limit. So you should invite each and every user to your automation cloud, and then they should be able to access this particular application. That should not be a problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
Same question for similar to this. Does there is any kind of load impact on the UiPath app if at the same time multiple users are using it? Like in generally website, we have got load balancers and everything to maintain the balance load over a single particular website. So similarly, is there something in the backend for UiPath apps?
So not that I'm aware of. Like, this is very technical question. Like, it goes into behind of the apps architecture, and I don't have any view on that, right? How it is being developed, and so we work on now. So that's the answer for now. If Parth can add something, that would be great then.
No, I think this information is not there probably on the documentations as well, right?
Yeah.
So
We need to test.
cannot, yeah, we can just test it, or if we have any feedback, like if you are implementing some use case and if you see like 40 people are using, but some are probably facing crashing issues or something like that, then maybe you can send that feedback to UiPath team, and then we might get to know like what's actually behind it. So yeah, I think that depends on the usage probably. Yeah. Anyone else, any other questions or any interesting use case that you are working on UiPath apps or have worked on and would like to share with others, or are facing some issues in that as well? Feel free to talk about it. Or if Dilip or Akshat, you want to add something out of this session that which I talked about. I know we are going to have next week the technical deep dive, but anything if you want to add.
So just to add to the Piyush point, right? He was asking about 500 people, but not disclosing anything, but still we have developed an application, contact center application, which is used by a lot of people in one of the organization, and they're using very efficiently. So they are not
Okay.
yet facing any issues. So that's the thing.
Yeah. Okay.
So why I asked this question, that if we can deploy this on open internet or not. So because we were actually exploring this option for one of the clients, and they have a contact center, and their contact center executives were supposed to use this form, and this form was supposed to trigger the background bots, right? So later customer mentioned that he probably wants to dismantle the phone line for the contact center for this particular process, and whatever information is to be collected by through customers, they want to deploy this form on their website. So that the question which I asked, that came from that background, that if we can deploy the same UiPath app and it deploy this on a public open internet website, from where we can collect the input and the background bots, the background process can be triggered.
So if I understand your use case right, you want an user or probably a customer to go ahead and fill out the form, and then it should trigger a particular process inside an orchestrator. Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yes.
So it is not mandated to use apps here. If you want to do this publicly, what you can do probably is you can share out a Google form to any of the users or whatever the user base you have. Once you share it, right, we can use integration service in this place. This is of course out of the UiPath app. And whenever there's an so Google, what I'm saying is Google form, you have the user fill it, and it goes inside the spreadsheet of your particular Google sheet, right? And once there is an update in Google Sheet, it can trigger a process inside an orchestrator. which will eventually run a bot. That is one approach I'm thinking of since UiPath app is not yet public.
Yeah, so that would be possible. The only challenge is that it's a large organization and they already own multiple websites with different domains. So they would not want
Okay, got it.
redirecting people
Okay.
to Google rather than, and also
Right.
then the question of all that data security and all
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
come into
Got it.
picture.
So one thing, or maybe one solution again, out of the apps context, what you can do is
Mhm.
whatever the website is there, right? You can create another web page to it, create a normal form like we have on any other website. And on the back end of that, what you can do is whatever form data is being submitted, just make the API call and add the data to your orchestrator queue.
Yeah, so
And
the only challenge with that is that now, because I am actually part of automation team, now we will have to bring in the skill set from either from .NET
Right.
team or Java
Right,
team,
right.
depending on which technology the website is built in, so that they
Right,
can
right.
create a form for me on their website, and
Right.
that's how
Right.
it. Yeah.
If the backend technology is C# MVC, then it will be very simpler. But then again, I'm not sure about Java or anything else. So yeah, this can be another approach as well.
Yeah, right. Thanks. Thanks for
Yeah,
the thoughts.
yeah. Thank you, Tarun. Okay, I think we are good and there are no other questions coming. So yeah, if there are no other questions, okay, there is. Okay. So Tarun, this is probably helpful for you only.
Another suggestion which we can explore. Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe Druid chatbot is another option that you can explore. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Chintan.
Thanks, Chintan.
Okay. Okay. So any other questions with respect to this session or any other thoughts that you want to share about this? Feel free to share. Feel free to post it on LinkedIn as well about this session. So more people get aware about the upcoming sessions as well. And we have more participants and attendees in the further session. So feel free to tag me, Akshat, and Dilip as well, or anyone else from the UI team, especially Rohit and Vibor as well. So they know and they can also share the links of the further sessions and we can have more participants. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, for taking out time and attending today's session. I hope this was helpful and you got some idea about the app updates. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys. Bye bye.
Thanks, Parth.